Hi, I'm Chike Coleman of Sound On Sight. That's Chuck Kaplinski of the Illinois Times and the News Gazette. And this is The Real Reviews Cinematic Underground, the show where we discuss the movies that have come out in theaters or on video. And this week we have a lot to talk about, Chuck. It's been another, 2 weeks since our last show. This week I wanted to start a discussion about a film you actually recommended that I see called Calvary. Calvary stars Brendan Gleeson as a priest named James, who is in his, I don't know what to call it, a confessional pew?
He's in the confessional.
Well,
yes.
just in the confessional.
Right.
And in the confessional, we are treated to a conversation that he has with one of his congregation about the fact that that member was molested at the age of 7 by another priest. And because that horrible, evil thing happened to that person, he is going to take something good out of the world since something good and innocent was taken from him. So he tells the priest, I'm going to kill you because I want to equalize things. There needs to be a balance. The priest is, of course, very struck by this, and we are taken throughout his entire week as it leads up to the final confrontation with whoever was in that confessional with the priest. We don't know, but we do meet several of the townspeople that the priest interacts with throughout the film, and we're basically trying to figure out not just who it is, but what does the priest do in these quote-unquote final days. And I have to say, Chuck, I trust your recommendations a lot, but this was one of the most profound viewing experiences I've ever had, especially given that the actor is Brendan Gleeson. And I'm not saying I haven't seen him in good work before, I have. But this was very close to revelatory. Even if you just talk about the first scene, the way his face changes and contorts when he starts to hear what the person went through as a child, and the level of pity and maybe even slight disdain for the priest who committed the act that occurs on his face is nothing but heartbreaking.
Yeah, and this movie works on so many different levels. And I want to see it again, primarily because at the beginning you say that he gets this threat, and not too long afterwards when he discusses this event with his superior, I believe the cardinal in the area, he mentions to him that he knows who it is.
Yeah, of course he would.
And we don't.
Yeah.
And now I want to go watch it again, and now that I know who it is, I want to really look at those scenes in which he interacts with that character, knowing what I know now, to see what that's like. Because I think that would also put a different, or another layer to these things, to see how he treats that person.
Yeah.
You know, it's a mystery, but that's not what gets you. What gets you is the fact that this guy sticks to his beliefs.
Sticks to his beliefs, cares about everybody, regardless of how they treat
And they're awful.
They really are.
You know, at about the hour moment, at about the hour point, I asked myself, why is he doing this? I mean, almost none of them are worth saving. I mean, you've got the butcher who abuses his wife.
The daughter who
The wife who sleeps around openly.
Yes.
The guy who owns the pub who's openly abusive to him. The most cynical doctor you'll ever meet in the world.
Yeah, darkest human being in the film, I would gather.
Yeah, and he tells him a story at one point, and the priest says, why did you tell me that?
Yes.
And how he didn't just beat him bloody at that point.
He wanted to so bad.
Showed such great patience, control. And then you mentioned the fact that the priest has a daughter, which is obviously a unique situation, but we find out that he joins the priesthood after his wife had passed away.
Right.
So, and you know, and that's an interesting point too, because we have another priest in the film who's clueless.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that, you know, Father James, he's lived life.
Yeah.
So he can provide a much more
deeper context?
well-rounded perspective of things. You know, I've always thought, you know, it's kind of silly to go to a priest for marriage advice.
Yeah.
what's he going to tell you?
Yeah.
You know, whereas this guy, you could go and talk to and say, hey, I'm having this, and you trust that you'd get more of a straight answer and something with a little bit of background. Just some unbelievable scenes. There's a moment where he goes and visits a serial killer.
Yeah.
And you know who that was?
Who was that? I want to know.
There's a guy by the name of Domhnall Gleeson. That's his son.
What?
And he was in that film with Rachel McAdams earlier this year.
The
Love Story with the time travel thing.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
That's him. And you know what? And I had to kind of look it up because those scenes are very dark. But I didn't realize that was Brendan's son. So that's another reason to go back and rewatch the film to see that interaction.
But both of them are so incredibly strong in that moment.
Well, right. And
when
and again, I think maybe that was the moment where I said, why is he bothering?
Yeah.
He is beyond redemption.
Especially because the person in prison apologizes for what he did, and the priest is like, I don't believe you.
Yeah, you don't. Yeah, you're not.
And
sorry.
then he sincerely apologizes again. But I have to say, the scene, there are two scenes that move me most, one of which I called you about as soon as I got to it.
Right, and I told you to watch the end of the movie.
Yeah. And that involves the death of a dog in one of the most horrible ways I can humanly imagine. And the other is the final scene of the film after things have
played
out. And that broke me as well.
Well, you know, I've done a lot of reading about the film because I know I didn't catch everything. And one of the most interesting things I've read was, you know, that the guy said, one of the critics that I read, met J.R. Jones at the Chicago Reader, he mentioned the 7 deadly sins. And he said, if you go back and you watch this, they're all at play. And he said that even Father James sins in driving around in this red sports car that he has.
Right.
This sin of pride, this sin of vanity. He says, you know, no one's above any of this, which I thought was really an interesting point.
It's a great point.
You know, and you know, obviously the Christ story plays a large part in here because, you know, he is shouldering the burden of all of the sins of everyone.
The sins of everyone and the entire town and any sins he committed in his own past.
But the key moment of the film deals with an outsider. The woman, there's a woman who her husband is killed in an auto accident.
Yeah.
And they have 2 scenes, and those are the 2 key scenes in the film, because he does see at that point true faith. True faith. I mean, what she says in response to this horrific event and about how she can maintain her belief in God and everything, that's the thing that keeps him going. You know, he realizes he's not the only one.
Yeah, because he doesn't have to do it all by himself.
Right. It's not all in vain.
Yeah, exactly.
And that second scene that he has with her, of course, comes at a key moment.
Very key moment.
I cannot, you know, I love this time of year because, and I love weekends like this because things are starting to shake out as far as what's the great stuff and what's the not so great stuff. And I think we're going to talk about 2 today that are going to be on my top 10 list in the year. I mean, it's starting to shake out. I'm starting to see what's the good stuff. And all the good stuff I've seen so far has been independent, low budget, and most of it foreign.
Yeah.
Because these 2 and then Ida are at the top of my list already.
Yeah, I agree.
And it just is a difference of the approach to film.
It's night and day, you know.
You know, and people say, I just want to go to the movies to be entertained. Well, you know what?
No,
you can go to the movies and being emotionally and mentally engaged is a form of entertainment.
Exactly. And I think what speaks to me most about this film is it's an organic portrayal of one man's struggle to do the best he can in that 7-day span that he has.
A flawed world, yes.
And a flawed, broken world that he knows there's no fixes for.
And talk about being pushed to the limit. I mean, there's a thing I don't want to say that happens that, I mean, good Lord.
Like, what would you do?
At that point, you chuck it and you're gone.
I don't know what I would do in that situation.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a person who's looking for signs, there it is.
Yeah.
But to think that he still maintains his course of action at that point is remarkable. I can't say enough good things. I certainly hope that whoever is promoting this film gets behind it.
And gives it a wider release.
Well, not so much that. I hope gets behind it and really pushes it November and December, because if he isn't nominated, it's going to be a grave injustice.
Yeah. We should say that this film is now locally playing at the Art Theater.
Yes.
Started
yesterday on the 15th.
On the 15th.
I know he's going to have it there at least 2 weeks.
Okay.
And I'll tell you, I'm going to give you a money-back guarantee. You go it, you don't like it, come see me, I'll give you your money back.
Yeah, definitely.
That's that good.
One question for you about this movie before we move on to the next film. Do you know who killed the dog?
I know you're really hung up on the dog.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not really, because it didn't bother me that much, so I just kind of let it go. I assumed, but I'm not sure.
I do know, and we'll talk about it after the show.
Okay, well, I'll listen to you, because obviously it really bothered you.
It did, of course, because I owned two dogs at one point in my life. So moving on to the second film this week, we're going to talk about Richard Linklater's Boyhood. This project has been one that has been being worked on steadily over the past 12 years. It takes a young boy from age 5?
5 or 6. Yeah.
5 or 6 to age 18.
18, 19, he's about to go to college.
Has graduated high school and is moving on to college. And that's all I really want to say. I don't want to...
It's really all you can say.
I don't really want to give more than that, because there's so much that we could...
Well, you know, if you were to ask for a plot description, you know, as I wrote in my review, you know, you just say, well, nothing happens.
Yeah.
But everything happens.
But everything happens.
You know, you ask a person, you know, you say, well, write a story about your life, and almost every person will say, well, nothing happens.
Yeah.
My life is boring.
No, it's not.
No, it's not from an outsider's point of view, and that's one thing that this film proves.
Yeah, I'm gonna mix myself between a little bit of Roger Ebert right now and a little bit of Chike and say this.
Well, but you didn't really explain what makes the film special. I mean,
I'm about to say
we'll get there, because it's the important part.
This film is a document of the human experience. Every little small, tiny little moment a person could have.
Time out.
Okay.
What people need to know is that it was made over 12 years using the same actors. So what happened was that they filmed for a week or 10 days over the course of 12 years. And what happens is you see this young man who's cast in this role at the age of 6. You see him grow up before your eyes over the course of this film. And that's what makes it special. Also, Ethan Hawke and Patricia Arquette are the parents. You see them change as well. And Linklater's daughter, Lorelei Linklater, plays the young boy's sister. So that's one of the things that you need to know. You're watching these people develop over this course of time.
I was going to say that.
Then get to it. Yeah.
It's a document of the human experience because of what Chuck just said. You have these characters that you watch grow and change and evolve in so many different and unique ways that it reminds you of how you yourself grew from being a child to an adult. And there's several little small specific details that not everybody experiences that were put into this film.
Yeah,
But at its very core, it's about how someone learns to be who they are and maybe what they want to be in life. I want to give special credit to the young boy, whose name I'm never going to be able to pronounce, and Lorelei Linklater, because those children, when they were children, had a long commitment to this project. And everything comes across as something that would happen in a normal family dynamic. Things involving technology changing and how they feel about each other as siblings and the strife that they go through because of different small bits of turmoil in their life are all covered here in this nearly 3-hour film. And it's just short of perfect. I can't quite say that it's perfect. It's just short of perfect because of a few odd parts within the last third of the film, I think.
Such as Eller Coltrane is the young man.
Eller Coltrane? Such as everything that happens post-graduation scene. You really, it has a lull, sort of, when you get to the 16 to 18 range. I'm not saying you don't learn anything or discover anything new about the character after that point. You do. It just comes in smaller, lighter doses, and you really have to be looking for it. And because we're writers and film critics, we go on the journey not knowing what we're going to find, and I'm afraid that people will be fatigued at that point. We weren't, because we were so engrossed in the idea of this person learning about how to live life and who they want to be. Chuck, what did you think of Richard Linklater's Boyhood?
I think it is perfect. I applaud just the fact that he attempted it, quite frankly. So many things could have gone wrong, and fortuitously did not. I love the fact also that it's a time capsule. It really is a time capsule of the last 12 years. And they do things that obviously when they were doing them, they had no idea how it would resonate once this thing was done. You mentioned technology.
Yeah, technology.
I love the fact that they're looking at, he's playing a Game Boy, and it's the cutting edge thing at that time. He's in a computer lab at school, and they've got those, what were they, IMAX 3s?
IMAX with the color.
Yeah, that was a cutting edge thing. And as you're watching the movie, you're like, oh, that's so trite. Oh, isn't that cute? They thought that was the thing, and now look at what we have. My favorite moment, I think it's about when he's 9 or 10. He's out camping with his father. Mm-hmm. And out of the blue, the father says, do you think they'll ever make another Star Wars movie? And that is long before they even announced the new Star Wars movie. So you have these little things in there that are just these touchstones. And I love how he did not, he didn't put up, age 10. Or, he just allows us to notice things. And I love how he threw in the hit pop songs.
Yeah, like I remember my first little experience with the time change.
You're like, oh yeah, I remember that.
Like Britney Spears, the daughter singer in Britney Spears at the very beginning of the movie. I was just like, what?
So even though you say, there are certain things in there that not everyone experiences, there are things within the film that we all can relate to, and there are those touchstones that if you've been around for the last 12, 15 years, you're going to recognize.
Yeah.
And I love that historical time capsule quality of the movie.
It says so much about Linklater's dedication to making a good film.
And all of them.
Yeah.
I read an interview that his daughter wanted to bail after year 3.
Yeah, she did.
Yeah, she hits her teenage years. Oh, this is stupid. I don't want to do it anymore. Blah 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 blah. And he reminded her of the money she was making, and so that was the thing that convinced her to continue.
The money was it?
Yeah, she said. I think he said something like, you're only making minimum wage, but. You want that new iPhone that's coming out, you want this, this is your way of getting it. And I'm glad she stuck with it. She's very much a good balance to
She really is.
the
She's
boy.
the counterbalance to the boy.
And you see that dynamic between them. You believe that they're brother and sister. This is one that just resonates. And like I say, I think it's one that you want to watch again after it settles, and maybe again in a couple years. And I wonder, Linklater, it seems to be one of the themes that he deals with a great deal in his movies is time.
Yeah.
How time changes us, the before films.
Yeah.
That trilogy is very unique in how he plays with time. Even if you go back to Dazed and Confused, he's looking at a certain small window of time in those characters' lives. Mm-hmm. And I would love if somehow or another he could make a follow-up of that 25 years later. Where are those characters? What are they doing? So that just seems to be a very interesting theme, and I just love the movie.
I mean, there's really not much I can say that wouldn't just completely agree with you on every level. I also thought that Patricia Arquette and her male acting partner for the first half of
the husband?
The first husband.
Yeah.
What a piece of work that was in the first half of the film.
Yeah.
The relationship between those two, how it starts, and we don't even really, there is no, I want to point this out. There is no hand-holding in this film. You watch, you wait, you look for cues. That's what happens to make this film so rewarding, because he's not going to hold your hand and tell you this is where we are. You have to figure it out.
Right. And when it's not so esoteric or not so vague, you can't figure it out. Just pay attention.
Yeah.
Put your damn iPhone down.
Yeah.
Watch the damn movie. That's
Yeah.
all he wants you to do.
Yeah. And
And I don't know who that actor was, but kudos to him. He did
Yeah.
a great job in
absolutely
a thankless
fantastic.
role.
Exactly.
Yeah, good job.
I really love this film, and it's coming out in a few weeks.
No, it is here
Oh, it's here already.
at the Savoy.
Oh, it's at Savoy. I was going to talk about the art theater. That's
Well, I
correct.
know they still have it on their schedule. I don't know if they're going to pick it up after the Savoy's done with it, but I know it opened at the Savoy yesterday.
Okay. Well, that's Boyhood. The last movie I want to talk about while we have a few minutes is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. The new 2014 remake directed by Joe Liebsman and produced by Michael Bay. You went to see this movie. Did you see the original 3 films?
You know, I have to say, no, I have not.
Okay.
And my knowledge of the Turtles is very cursory at best. When they came out, I was in college. I obviously had other concerns. I knew, the basic story, the basic setup. I know how it worked.
Yeah.
I knew the characters. So I was going in about as fresh as a person my age could. I did take my 10-year-old son, though. He did not want to go. I had to drag him with me. He said, "That looks stupid." An hour and 50 minutes later, they had converted a new fan. And he said, "Do you think they'll make a part 2? So he's geared up already. It
Yeah.
won him over completely.
I actually grew up with the original trilogy. of
I
3.
figured you did. I figured that was your time period.
Apparently, according to a family friend, I went to that film at the age of 4. So my Turtles lore is very steeped deep in the past. Here's the thing that I want to say about this. Tonally, this film is a lot darker than the original
I had a feeling it was.
trilogy. Now, while I don't mind change, when you're 8 or 9, I don't see how that really works as well, because I feel like to make a proper Ninja Turtles movie, you want to go in slowly with a lot of comedy and make sure that everything sticks and all the puns work and the comedic stuff is on point. And then in the second one, you go darker. That's exactly what Star Trek did. They moved us in slowly to a darker tone. And I feel like this film would have been better suited for that type of environment, because everything takes place in the dark at
Yeah,
night
boy, it's a
without
dark film.
light.
It's a dark
and it's
film.
just it's very annoying to me.
Well, and one thing I wanted to point out, one thing I was impressed with were the special effects. But I think that many of the scenes are at night because of the special effects.
Yeah.
To make the turtles look better. That being said, I still was impressed with them, how they were rendered. I thought it was very, very well done.
I don't have a problem with the CGI they used to create the turtles. I actually thought Megan Fox was good in this film, which is a shock
Look,
to me.
I'm going to say, I've always thought she was underrated. I mean, I really do. The poor woman, I mean, she's never going to play Lady Macbeth.
No.
We know this. But there is something to, I mean, when you're in a Transformers film, when you're in a Turtles film, you're acting against nothing. You've got to pretend that those turtles are there. You've got to pretend that that giant robot's there. And that requires a certain amount of skill. Also, she made a good movie that no one saw.
Which was?
Jennifer's Body.
Yeah, I didn't see it, even
See
though
that?
I
That
like
was written-
Diablo
It
Cody
was
a
written by
lot.
Diablo Cody, who won the Oscar for Juno. That was her follow-up. She does a great job in that film. I mean, she's required to do a lot of interesting things, and it's a neat little horror film. Check it out. But yeah, I thought she was fine in this movie.
Yeah, I thought she was really good in this movie. The turtles themselves, though, here's my thing. Half of the turtle group acts like teenagers, the other half acts like adults. The inconsistency there is mainly what my main detractor for this film is.
So two of those characters weren't as hard asses as in the other incarnations.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, all 4 turtles in the original trilogy were very fun-loving. They cared about each other, and there was still that rivalry between Raphael and Leonardo, but there was no immaturity in terms of, everybody always had a plan, and everybody was always really brotherly supportive of one another. Go ahead, Chuck. What you got?
Now, in the original, was there that connection between the Megan Fox character and them in the past? Was that in the original?
No, that was
so
not.
That's a new thing?
That's a new thing
Okay.
that I heard was from the comics. That's something that happened in the comics.
Oh, okay.
That they added back in, but that was not in the original film.
Okay.
Like I said, I didn't think that the maturity level was on the same line. If they had all been goofy teenagers, then I would be completely fine with it, you know?
So this goes back then to your objection to it being a little bit too dark, because then that's reflected into those characters
Yeah,
as well.
tonally, for the characters, it's a bit of a diverging wood, if I might say.
Okay.
In the sense that I would love character consistency, because then that helps me relate to the turtles
I understand
more.
that.
The other thing is that the villain is kind of a double blind, in the sense that the person who they have as Shredder wasn't initially supposed to be Shredder. The actor that they cast, who is the scientist, was supposed to be Shredder, apparently.
Oh, okay. Well, that would make more sense.
And because everybody found out that he was cast as Shredder, they were all like, this doesn't work because he's not Japanese, and that rivalry between Splinter and Shredder will not work. I also want to point out that Splinter and Shredder, there was a past between those two in the original films that is non-existent here. So when they fight, there really is no connection for them to fight other than Shredder's going after the turtles.
Maybe they'll explore that in the second one.
That's my hope. Splinter was voiced by Tony Shalhoub,
Yeah.
which I thought was an interesting yet oddly practical choice. But Splinter is basically a dick to the turtles in the first beginning bits of the movie, in terms of the way he punishes them. And then,
Well, you know, if you're a parent to teenagers, I think you understand where he's coming from.
yeah, yeah, and then the 99 flavors of cheese on the pizza.
That was a gag that I really liked, though.
That to me was the other side.
The turtle hand coming in from the side trying to grab. I thought that was funny.
Yeah, that was to me the only other fun part of the movie was that gag. I thought that was really rich and fun, but I ultimately didn't like the film because it was just tonally inconsistent.
Well, I can understand that. But coming from a more fresh point of view, I liked it.
It's not wishful fulfillment. It's more so that I really just thought that the way it was handled in the original films was better done.
Well, it's, it goes back to what you're used to. It goes back to what you grew up with.
Yeah.
And I think we came to this with different expectations. I had none,
Yeah.
and was pleasantly surprised.
Well, that's the joy of going to the movies when you haven't had any, action or access to the history of
Sure.
something.
Yeah. That's why if I never saw a film preview again, I'd be very happy. I think I'd be much more surprised when I went to the movies.
Exactly. I would be much more likely to see that new biopic, Get On Up, for James Brown, if I knew nothing about it. But
Exactly.
it feels like I know everything about it. So, in conclusion, you guys, go see Boyhood, go see Cavalry. They're the two best films out right now.
Cannot go wrong.
I don't think they can be any better until maybe a few weeks from now. What's coming out, Chuck, that you're excited about?
You know what, Gone Girl. I'm very curious about Gone Girl based on the bestseller that everyone's read. I know very little about it, but with David Fincher directing, I'm in the door. And I think that's the first week in October. But yeah, we're going to have to wait, as you say, a few weeks before we start gearing up for stuff that's going to mean something down the road.
And if you don't like the idea of Boyhood or Cavalry, which I can understand why or why not you wouldn't like either of those films, go see Guardians of the Galaxy, because at least you'll laugh and get a nice space odyssey.
The most fun I've had at a movie this year, without question.
All right, so until next time, I'm Chike Coleman of Sound On Sight. That's Chuck Kaplinsky of the News Gazette and the Illinois Times. We will see you next week. Bye.